Good morning. Good morning. Today we have Spill the Tea episode with Kiira. Kiira has spent 10 years devoted to the path of healing, which I cannot wait to connect and talk about today. She started out with a deep desire to heal her own traumas and then created her own path to become a healer for others. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm very excited to have this conversation.
I am so looking forward to it. Oh my gosh. Okay, Kiira, so let's jump right in. Tell me a little bit about yourself and your history and kind of like what's led you into this journey.
Yeah, such a big question after 10 years of exploration. But I would say the foundational piece that really kind of opened up was in 2019 when I chose to go to Honduras for a Tantra retreat. And I had never known anything about Tantra. A friend of mine was like, you need to go to this. And I was like, oh, I don't know. And let me give you a little bit of a background prior to that.
Okay.
So I have a son that is vaccine injured. So when he was young, I was his full-time caregiver from the time he was born until about 9. And at a certain point, I couldn't care for him anymore. He was having upwards to 150 seizures and up all night. And so that catalyst was really into my spiritual awakening. I had chronic fatigue. I had so many conditions, so many diseases in my body from the stress levels and the fear that he wasn't going to survive. So I had to make a really hard decision. And in 2018, the end of the year, I chose to put him in a group home. And that was a whole grieving process. But shortly after that, the moment I did that, a friend was like, you have to go to this Tantra retreat. I think it's going to help you. And I was like, okay. I didn't know where to go and I didn't know how this looked, but I trusted the process unfolding. And so I went to Honduras and really dove into shamanic Tantra. And that is really a whole level of releasing mother wounds, releasing father wounds, really diving into your sensual and sexual traumas. And when I did that, I had a full-blown, unexpected Kundalini awakening. And for those that don't know what the Kundalini is, it is this energy that is kind of held at the base of your spine. And for some people in this life, if it's activated, what happens is that energy starts moving through the body. And it's almost as if you have a direct connection to source energy. And so that activated and it was on. I was like living my best life. There was this energy that shifted in me where all this fear I had, all these projections I had, all of these judgments, it was almost as if they just disappeared. So I got home and I was like, I'm sure people who have seen me since that time were like, this bitch is crazy. I was dancing in my bra. There was no shame. I was just like, yes, let's do this.
Yeah, like fully alive.
Yeah. And so it really was the beginning process to opening such a world that I had never known about. And I began to channel. I didn't know who Kali was at that time. And all of a sudden, after that Kundalini awakening, I just kept seeing her and she told me who she was and what she was doing with my body and how she was helping me break free from my own traumas. And so it was so incredible. And if anyone out there has ever had an unexpected Kundalini awakening, it can also be really jarring. 4 months into that process, I was experiencing so much energy in my body that anytime I would go anywhere, my body just shook uncontrollably. I didn't know how to control the energy center. And so it was really hard for me to go outside at some points. It was really hard for me to interact. And I started realizing it was actually hindering my ability to experience life. So with that, I actually had reached out to people on Instagram, and I was like, does anyone know how to work with this energy? Because it's too much for me. And I was led to this beautiful woman in England, and she gave me all the tools to really start bringing that energy and bringing it down and out of the body, and how to start harnessing it. And once I did that, there was a beautiful journey of really coming back into the body and learning how to have this human experience while also working with the unseen realms.
Yeah,
So yeah, I would say that was the catalyst.
That is so powerful. And I mean, it just is a testament to integration and in healing process is so real, right?
Absolutely.
You came back feeling fully alive, but then also almost even paralyzed because there was certain things you just weren't able to do. So how did you navigate beyond that? So you did more healing work and you learned how to really harness the energy. And then where did everything go from there?
Oh my goodness. So, a backstory from my human experience in this life, my life has, for so many can relate to this. My life has been very challenging. And I would say up to the age of 3, there's always been traumas. There's always been emotional things. I've always been very sensitive and highly emotional, and not having a family that really, opens and supports that. And so through that came, being with a lot of different men. That was definitely something that came through for me. So when I got out of this Tantra experience, I remember coming home, and at 11 p.m., I knew every single quality of the man that I was calling in. And I reclaimed within myself my sovereignty that I would no longer allow penetration with another man until I knew that this was the one. And so that was a really big thing for me to reclaim my power back in that essence. I believe I held the signature imprint, as we all do, of the collective sacred prostitute, of the shame that we feel as women and exploring our sensual and sexuality. And I had a lot of that. And so I wrote that down, and, 2 weeks later, or 3 weeks later, actually, I was working for this cannabis company, and my boss was like, so we have my best friend who's moving from Colorado, and he needs a place to stay. He's going to be working with us. And I was like, great. I was like, I actually have an extra room in my house. And he was like, awesome. And then 2 weeks later, he showed up, and he never left. And now he's my husband, and he matched every one of those qualities. And I speak to that because that was part of the unfolding on the continuation of my spiritual journey. He is such a grounded human being, and he is so in his divine masculine. And at that time, I was really just loving the spiritual realm, didn't want to experience the human experience. And so I was having a really hard time anchoring down into this human experience. I was like, this is bullshit. Like, what's up there is so amazing. Like, this is where it's at. And he really helped me kind of come back into my body. And from that, it continued. I went to a beautiful festival called Soul Play, and that was also a Tantra retreat. I really kind of dove into the tantric practices, and then that opened, and I was really, really exploring shamanism and shamanic tools, and that was ultimately my deepest calling. I really feel connected. That and also working with the elements of, the archetype of the priestess. Mm-hmm. And so that's how that word shamanic priestess kind of came about. And I don't necessarily love titles, but because we're in this third dimensional experience, people need to understand what it is that you do at a certain level. And so that was the best term that I could create to be like, what is it that you do? And it's continuously evolving. And now it's just been an exploration of working with everything that I've learned, and also now really truly stepping on the path as a medicine woman, as a support role for certain medicines that are really being called to people to have quantum awakenings.
That's amazing. I love that you brought your husband into it as well, because this morning I was actually thinking about that. You both heal and do work together. And I wanted to ask, how does that come together? How did that happen? How did that transpire? So this is perfect segue for that.
Wow. I love talking about my husband. You know, we had a rough start those first 2 years in our relationship. You know, he was kind of going in a different direction, and he wanted me to follow that direction of his. He was building a supplement company, and I was just like, no, like that is not me. And I really wanted him to come onto the spiritual realm more and really like dive into his own personal work, because even though he was so grounded and so centered, he still had a lot of his lineage's traumas that he had never explored. And so there was definitely this like tug of war with our own traumas, our own responses to our past relationship experiences. And, you know, there was a catalyst in a moment in time, and that was 3 years ago, where I realized I don't think this is working. And I went to California, and, you know, I'm in Arizona now, and we had just bought a house, and I call him when I was in California, and I'm like, something's got to give. Like, this is not working for us. And it was so beautiful and so unexpected, but it was the first time he asked for me to do a healing session for him. Oh, and so I did a distant healing session. And what that looked like was I was in meditation. I went into the quantum, I found him, and I asked to show me where the blocks were. And what came through was this image of his mind, and it was filled with these old books. And what it was showing me was that there's so much divine energy flowing through, but there's so much clouding it, right? It couldn't streamline. And so I helped unblock those pieces. And then he had this beautiful release for 3 days of like, he wasn't a crier. And crying for 3 days and really taking time to be in the bath and nurturing himself. And after that, when I came back, something shifted, and we started kind of like, okay, what is this? You know, this is good. And it wasn't until, you know, we went through this process, and it wasn't until we got married. The day of our wedding, I never really wanted to get married. I was like, I don't believe in it, you know, all of these things, because I'm in the polar opposite of the matrix, and I want to do nothing that the matrix says. Right. And what I did not realize was the energetic courting that happens when you make a commitment out loud. And it was the ceremony was so intentional that the moment I said I do, and from that point on, it's been 2 years now, from that point on, it has been like, I am committed. And I've never felt that way. I've always been kind of in, kind of out. I'm like, I like this, but I also like honeymoon phases. Do I want someone else? You know, these feelings of wanting more. And since that moment and saying I do, I'm in. And he's always been in. But I am like, you are incredible. And so once we did that, then his path started opening into the medicine world, and holding, you know, men's retreats, and really working with the masculine in the hopes that, you know, through the spiritual community, there's more of these masculine men that come in, you know, and I think that's what's needed as we rise. The feminine is rising in this time, and we need our men to come up too, because we do need them. They are an essential piece to this. And so he is really here holding that space for the men that are ready to dive into their shadows, to dive into their work, and to come out being able to hold the feminine.
That's beautiful. That's so remarkable too. What a cool, I love how transparent you just came out with all of it. I love it.
No hiding.
I love it so much, especially because it's, you know, a lot of people aren't willing to go there. So thank you for doing that and feeling safe and feeling free and available to share that information. I think that you're right. We do need more men that are coming up in this space. So I've also noticed that you have not only done your own retreats, you do your own healings, you have a yurt, you do Cambo.
Yes.
I think actually the original way that I found you was through a website that showed that you offer Cambo ceremonies. So tell me a little bit about how you got into Cambo.
So I did my first combo. I had my first combo experience right after ayahuasca. And in my journeys with ayahuasca, it was just a remembering how to strengthen the mind through pain. And I'm talking about physical pain. I'm good with emotional pain, but I am such a wimp when it comes to physical pain. I can't even. And so it was a whole process of that. And I was like, okay. And then combo presented itself and I'm like, I've got to do this. And that first ceremony, I purged so much. But in that process, I was smiling the whole time. And I was like, what is this? And so Brian and I started sitting more with combo. And then we were like, this needs to be readily available. Like there need to be more people holding this space with integrity and also the understanding of the science backed up behind combo, right? Mm-hmm. And so we found Tribal Detox. That is an incredible facilitation program because they really focus on all of the science behind it, along with where it comes from, right? And acknowledgement of the indigenous tribes that found this medicine. So we learned so much in that. It was a 14-day program. And since then, we've just been sitting with it probably once or twice a month. And then I just went to Peru for a 30-day shamanic initiation. I did 8 ayahuasca ceremonies and a dieta, and it was beautiful. But with that process, I met a beautiful woman who really works with the tribe that found combo, and that's the Matsis tribe. And she's been working very closely with them for the last 8 years. And she came to the retreat center and we really connected, but she offered us to find the frog so we could excrete the combo off of it. And so I had the privilege of being able to see how the frog is called in, how we work with it, how we take off the combo from the excretion from the frog. And I got to bring some home. And in that moment, there was also something that further connected me to the understanding of the reciprocity of Mother Earth. Wow. So it was really beautiful. Brian and I tend to do a lot of couples combo ceremonies, which is really incredible. And like you said, we have a yurt. I know that was a funny process as the yurt. One day was like to Brian, I was like, we need a yurt. And he's like, why? And this was before I was even doing any work. I was like, I don't know, but it's going to be for community. It's going to be for something. And he was like, of course, his divine masculine was like, I love to build. Okay, great. Let's do it.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. Since then, we have filled that yurt with so many people. And so much healing has been done there. And that's where we hold our combo ceremonies. And so we have seen so many transformations with combo, and people that have had arthritis, people that have had these conditions in the body, because what happens is the combo assimilates new neuro and biopeptides in the body. And as we age, we just stop making those. So it's really creating a new homeostasis within the body. And I just love holding space for medicine. I used to think I wanted to lead more retreats and be more in the forefront. But as I've worked with a lot of different medicines, I have been shown like you are the space holder for the medicine and the client.
That's so amazing. I'm also actually very interested. What is Tantra?
Great question.
We're going back again. I'm going back to that.
Yeah. And I apologize for my throat. I had a shamanic journey last night and we definitely got a little wild in there.
You're okay. Take your time.
So, Tantra can look very different depending on what tradition and culture that you're speaking to. But I look at Tantra as the gateway. They use the sensual and sexual energies as the gateway to the divine feminine flow, to Shakti, to source energy. Mm-hmm. And so when you start working with Tantra, you're really accessing that realm. And so you're using a lot of different sexual practices, a lot of breathing techniques to really open up the energy centers of the sacral. And
so is that when you see like people crying and screaming into pillows and things like that, or is that something completely different?
Yeah, that is an expression of Tantra, that considering it's like sacred rage, right? Where we have permission to express all aspects of ourselves. And Tantra really allows that permission to be had, because how many of us have been told, like, be the good girl, do the right thing, don't show your emotions, right? And there is a level with Tantra that gives you that radical freedom to be exactly as you are. And so with that, there's different tools and techniques. Hold on just a minute.
Yeah, no, you're okay. There are so many things too. I just keep thinking about all the questions because I want to talk about dietas. Dietas. Because my husband and I were talking about that, and I was told that you're given one specific, like let's say a food of some type, and then you sit with that food for an extended period of time. But there's different types. So I'm curious about those too. So if we can get to that, I would love to chat about that as well.
Yeah.
I have literally all the questions, Kiira.
I love questions because, and I'm only speaking from really my experience. I am not a well-versed tantrika. There are so many people that dedicate their life to this path. I only know briefly what I've experienced and what I've learned.
Yeah.
But as far as Tantra, I would say there's different levels. There's Black Tantra, White Tantra, Red Tantra. And that can go into levels of Tantra. There's Red Tantra, White Tantra, and Black Tantra. And White Tantra is more of a focus on opening the heart. So you do a lot of inner child work. You learn how to play again. It's very much about the innocence, right? And then you go to Red Tantra, which is more of a level of like a shamanic level of, let's look at the sensual and sexual traumas. Let's deal with the mother-father wounds. Let's go into a deeper level of the pain places so that we can open and free them. Mm-hmm. And then Black Tantra is really about dominatrix, right? Like, what's your threshold, right? And it can go into kink and it can go into all different levels. I have not done Black Tantra. It's always been intriguing to me, but my husband is not on that path and he's like, no, I'm good. So that piece I don't know a lot about, but in regards to Tantra, I would say, if anyone is interested in that, to explore why, this is a initiation into radical freedom, and it allows all aspects of you to be very present.
Wow. So it's just different practices that are implemented and practiced over like a weekend, a week, 10 days, 12 days?
Every retreat is different. Mine was 7 days, but there's 30 days, and this is a lifelong opening. One of the fathers of Tantra is Osho, and he really speaks to this in such depth. So if anyone wants to learn more, I would look at Osho's teachings. But it also talks about shaking and like releasing and screaming and right? Like, so you're really just opening the body centers so that the energy can start flowing through. Yeah.
I love it. Well, so then do you think that Kambo helps to also open up and release energy?
Yeah, I do.
Because I know from the biopeptide aspect, it's also rebalancing your whole system. But what I also, I've only experienced it one time, and I purged.
How was your experience?
I purged. I drank. I mean, I felt like I was going to purge before the Cambo first dot was even applied, just from the water.
Yeah.
So I already knew, I could feel it, but I purged the whole time. And then once it was done, I was like, okay, let's go again. I was
Yes.
actually more like, I was excited about it. I definitely want to go to Tribal Detox and experience their practitioner program and everything, because I know that it's called, the frog is calling, but I'm just not sure to what extent or what it means or anything to that point yet. I'm still discovering it, but I knew right away I was ready to go again. And I remember afterwards, I got to the car and my husband says, well, how was it? And I said, well, it was good, but I had no idea how to explain it. I hadn't even processed everything yet, you know? And he was like, wait, so you just paid money to go vomit? And I was like, well, I guess if you want to look at it that way, but it didn't feel that way. You know, it just like, it was such a wild, like, chain of events. I felt all of the waves go through my body, and I was there for it, for sure. I was nervous initially.
Did you feel like later on how that opened any blocks emotionally?
So I went home and I ended up sleeping for 12 hours. So I definitely slept for a really long time. And then that following week, it was probably like day 3, day 4, where it's just, I felt lighter. I felt there was something different, but I can't really say, oh, this was it. But I know that there was a shift. But I also know that I'm interested in doing, let's talk about that actually. What's the difference between doing one back-to-back 3 hours in a row versus a 3-day, like one each day? Talk to me a little bit about the different applications and what is achieved in those different processes.
Yeah. So what we were taught, and what I do believe to be my truth, is that everyone is so different. Everyone is so different. There isn't a right way to do it, whether you do back to back or what's called a 3x3, which is X amount of dots, do it, wait an hour, do more, wait an hour, do another set. And so I think it depends on where someone's at and what they want to receive from it. There is no one way to do this accurately. You know, I do recommend, if people are really wanting to work with this medicine, to feel it, to understand it, sitting with it once a month can be extremely beneficial. And that is an option I do encourage. But other than that, it doesn't matter. It's like when you do it and you had a plan to do it the next day and your body's like, nope, you listen to that, because your body is the wisdom keeper and the combo's working with you to access those wisdoms. And so you listen to that intuition, and that's what we trust more than anything else, not the recommendations of what you should or should not do. This is your place to navigate what is in your highest good.
So what have you, I mean, how does that present when you are doing a 3x3? In the fact, well, for me, I was thinking as soon as it had passed, I was like, okay, let's go again in my head. Right. I felt really good. I was ready. I mean, I felt like $1 million, besides the fact that I was still slurring my words a little.
Right.
But I was also thinking, if I did do this 3 hours in a row, how would I drink all that water? You know? And it's like, maybe I'd just be purging for 3 hours. Maybe that's what I would need. I don't know. But how does that, I mean, with your previous experience, have you done 3x3s, and what did that look like?
Yeah. So what's required at Tribal Detox is to experience the 3x3. So I did that there. And for me personally, it was too much in my body.
Mm-hmm.
I was so fatigued for days, and it was just I feel intuitively it wasn't right for me. Now, my husband who did it, he went on a hike. He was thriving. He was living his best life after that, so I got to see my threshold. And, it starts out, I had 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I did 12 dots total. So what you do is you do 3, right? You do your process 20 minutes in, then you wait an hour, then you take those dots off, then you do 6. So you do 3, another 3. Then after that, take those off, then you do another 3. So 3, so you do a total of 9. I did a total of 9. I think my husband did 11 or 12. But I would say, I have not served a 3x3 since then. One, no one's asked for it. And 2, it just hasn't been a calling for me to do it again. I would trust my husband to hold the space of the 3x3 more than me, because I believe that I have to be able to hold that within myself in order to serve it. That's within my integrity. And so I'm not called to serve 3x3s.
I love that perspective as well. So beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful.
I really hope that you go to Tribal Detox.
I will. It's just a matter of when. I definitely will. I know that it's been intriguing ever since I first heard about it, and I had to try it. I mean, within a month, I had my first sit with Kambo, and like I said, I've been wanting more since,
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, I cannot wait to hear about your experience once you're there.
Thank you. I'll keep you posted for sure. I'm thinking probably at the first of the year.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about dietas.
Yeah. So a dieta in, at least I'll speak to Peru, and specifically the Shipibo tradition, which is the tradition that I sat with. The dieta is actually with a master plant. So there are a variety of master plants. And when you go there, if you haven't received a calling for a specific plant, what the shaman will do is ask your intention. And then based on your intention, what plant will help you with that intention? For example, there is a plant, and I dieted Bobinsana. My intention going there was to really access and open my heart and be a clear channel for divine love. Bobinsana is a beautiful medicine for that. It is the energy. It's this gorgeous shrubbery that holds, it's just beautiful. But what she did for me was she opened so many aspects of where I've closed my heart. And what you do in the dieta is, once you've received, that master plant, you drink it throughout that whole day, all day. And so you can have up to 5 or 6 glasses of Bobinsana throughout the day. And so you're really making that connection, and the primary focus throughout the whole day, because you're not doing anything except sitting in your tombo or on the hammock. And so you keep your intention with Bobinsana. And what you're doing is creating a relationship and a new ally. So when people diet this long enough, they become allies with the spirit of this plant. And when you call them later on, they're actually helping and supporting you in different ways. Now, if you don't follow the dieta, and the dieta is no salt, no processed foods, right? It's a very basic and bland diet. And what you're doing in that is you're saying, I respect and giving my full body to this master plant, and I'm willing to sacrifice these things. And so that's your commitment to working with the master plant. And when there's some master plants that are harsher than others. For example, if you mess up your diet with Bobinsana, there usually isn't any harsh reactions. So I've heard. It's just like you lose that disconnection and that's it. Other plants, like there's one called Charik Sanango, which is a masculine plant, and also Morosa, which is a feminine plant. Morosa is beautiful for protection and keeping away and warding off evil. And it's a really protective energy. But if you mess up her diet, she has jealousy in her energy. And so a lot of things can happen. So, you know, those are more for experienced people who are ready to commit to a diet, because post dieta, which means you're doing this dieta, even though you're not drinking the master plant, you're actually not taking down any foods, no sex, all of these things for a prolonged period after the diet. And so if you mess it up after that, there can be some harsh consequences.
Wow.
So
how long is it total?
Everyone's diet is very different.
Okay.
It depends on how deeply you want to go. You know, the shaman that I worked with, he did a dieta with Chuyachaki for a year. So that means, and then he did a 6-month post dieta. I only did Bobansana for 26 days. And some other people only do it for 10 days.
Wow.
So it's really about how deeply do you want to go with this one particular plant to get to know it. Because when you start connecting with it, it's just like the spirit realm in general. When you start creating allies and you call on them, you can begin to really feel them. And you're like, oh, this is my plant. Like, and so the indigenous culture there is really teaching us how to come back to the beauty way with earth elements, right? With the plants, because they are living beings. And I think a lot of us have this perception that the beings are only above, but they're everywhere. And so when we connect deeper on this level, we begin to understand the importance of healing Mother Earth, of protecting the land, of protecting the waters. You have a deeper connection to understanding what we need to do to make a change in the way we're living, because right now we are at the precipice of it going either way, of healing Earth or it going in a major decline. So this is our access point, and I'm so grateful that these cultures who have protected the jungle, who have protected the rainforest, are actually inviting us in, because they know that in order for us to heal Mother Earth, the Westerners have to understand how to do that and how to relate. You know, I'm not sure if they're super thrilled we're all coming in there, but their main priority, I believe, is to bring consciousness back to the earth. And so it's their responsibility to start showing us how to do that.
Wow. So if someone is watching and they're brand new, or I now also feel I have so much to learn after talking to you. I'm just so intrigued. So thank you again so much for being here. But what would you say for someone that's listening, that's intrigued but wants to know more? Where do they start? How do they get into learning more about any of these things?
You know, there's this level of just deeply trusting. If you are on the path and you're seeing so many things and you're like, I don't know where to start, right? The most simple thing is to tune in to your consciousness and ask, show me what is going to be for my highest and greatest good. Teach me where I need to be to support my healing, right? And so I think that's the first access point, because you are actually bringing out an electromagnetic field into your sphere saying, I'm ready, right? And so if you do that daily, I guarantee you're going to find something that pops up. And maybe you might not be conscious in that moment of being like, oh, that's weird, that guy has an ayahuasca shirt on, and not think anything about it. But then you're going to start seeing ayahuasca everywhere. And you're like, okay, wait a minute. what is this about? Why do I need to do this? You know, I've had a lot of people come to me for psilocybin journeys, and they're like, I kept seeing psilocybin everywhere, and I knew that I was supposed to be sitting with it, right? Like, so the consciousness becomes more aware of the signs, because your guides and the beings and your guardians, they're all there supporting you and ushering you. You just have to tune in to a deeper level of awareness, step outside of the mind, because when we're in the mind, we're funneling, we're in tunnel vision. And so when we open, you're going to receive the messages, and you begin to trust that. And then say that ayahuasca was showing up. Well, then maybe you start doing some research, like, show me what space or who knows of a spot that feels safe to go journey in, and let me explore that. You know, you will be guided, and that's about this whole path, is this deep trust in the unknown. And when we can start feeling that, life begins to get really good.
That is so awesome. I love that so
Yes.
much. Oh, so trust, and ask for guidance, and show me.
Yeah. You know, like, I want to ask you, what brought you to combo? Like, why did you know that you were supposed to do that medicine?
I'm a gut feeling type of person. And I listened to a podcast that the owner of Tribal Detox did. And I was immediately looking it up, researching it, and just knew I needed to try it. I still don't quite know why, other than I think that I'm meant to become a practitioner. And I don't know if that means for healing others or just to experience it. I know that through the practitioner program, it is a pretty intense program.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how it goes once I'm there and once I've done it. But I know it was just a gut feeling, and I followed it.
Exactly. And that podcast opened the channel for you to be like, what is this? Right? Like, that's what I'm talking about, is like, you were so tuned in that some type of frequency of what he was saying amplified in your body. And you were like, okay, I need to know more about this. Right? And I need to try this. And that is the process that's unfolding. And when we look back and see these moments, it's like, oh my God, of course I was. Of course I was. Like, this happened because this happened. And you see how it trickled to where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that gets to be so fun. Because you don't know. Like you said, like, I don't know why. It was just like that I needed to do it. We don't need to know. We just trust. And if you have that gut feeling, that's what you trust.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, so let's talk about your offers and how people can find you.
Yeah. So since we're on the topic of dietas and indigenous cultures and their ways, I am actually, so I haven't heard of anyone doing this, but I just had a intuition on it. I did a 35-hour cleanse followed by combo. I didn't do the cleanse, like, you can't be on a cleanse like a fast and then do combo. So I started the cleanse the night before. I had food in my body, so I did combo that morning. And then the next day I did a vomitivo. And that was something I learned in the jungle, and that really clears the intestinal tract. And when I did that combination, it was like, I had parasites when I came back, and I was really sick for the whole month. And it really reset my body. And so what I'm going to be offering is a 3-day intensive at my home to really go through this protocol and to be held in that. And what I'm going to be doing is giving all the proceeds back to the tribe. So all of that money, this is going to be, I kept seeing a cycle of reciprocity. So I'm giving my time to support others, and by those people healing, they're giving the money that has supported our wisdom. So that is going to be something I'm just starting to open that field And that's something really important to me, is the reciprocity and giving the thanks and gratitude for this wisdom, because it's not mine. So that's a big one that's coming up. So you can look out for that. I am going to be doing, it's called a Wild Rose Retreat. It is activating the wild woman in the priestess archetype. And I'm holding it with my dear sister, Marin, who channels Mary Magdalene. She is this rose goddess. And in fact, she was my first mentor 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So she is, I don't think I've ever met anyone more powerful in the sense of her divine love and her commitment and devotion to supporting women on opening into divine love. So we will be working on sacred rage. We will be activating codes. And that's the gift. But I love working with Marin, because we really know how to open these portals to bring in the energy to open our dormant DNA. And so we're going to be working with that wild woman and allowing her to unleash. And in that process, we're going to be doing a medicine journey to finalize it, to open up and seal the energies of what we've reclaimed. So that I'm so, so excited about. That's in December. I do hold medicine journeys. I've spoken to one. If anyone's interested, I always like to talk about it on Signal. To keep my energy safe, but I hold those often, and I believe in these medicines so deeply, so deeply. I have seen time and time again the transformations that happen in just one night. And my gift in that process is I know how to call in the energy in my yurt, in the space, to be totally held and sealed. So the whole experience is completely a mystical and magical experience, and a place where people can really release their traumas. I also do shamanic journeys, which looks different every time, but that is a real deep cleansing and clearing of blocked energy and traumas. And so I do combo. And yeah, I think that's about it.
That's a lot, but that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love it. It's all healing and it's all beautiful. And thank you for doing this work.
Yeah, thank you so much, Teresa, for just reaching out. I'm so grateful to have connected with you and what you're doing, what you're choosing to do, and bringing this connection back together, this community, this conversations. That is just so healing in itself. So I really want to acknowledge that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here today. And everyone, follow her on social. We'll tag below.